Hi there, open class. I hope you're doing really well. And if you haven't checked it out, I uploaded a really profound interview yesterday with Andreas. It is talking. I forget the number, and I believe it is 666. Anyway, I uploaded it yesterday with Andreas. We really talked about. We got to the core of everything, which is like the fear of losing control, think that something's wrong with us, and how when we try to suppress the fears, it gets much more intense in the context of like Tourette syndrome, anxiety, insomnia, PD, etc. It was a really profound one, and I'm happy that Andres is actually coming back next week. We're gonna really get into these deep topics. Nothing else to announce really here, so let's just jump into it and questions. As always, nothing is medical advice here, just general thoughts and general comments that I hope will help anyone who tunes in here. Let's look at our first messages from Elena. Hi, Coach Dan. First of all, I want to thank you so much. You changed my life. Well, that's amazing. I'm so happy to read this, Elena. That's the reward, of like, of doing this work. Sometimes people ask me like, how do you, isn't it like kind of taxing? Like you hear you hear these stories of like struggle, anxiety, but then every now and then, and it's actually quite often, someone says like, this will help, or you changed my life. That's amazing. That's reading something like this is the reason that the tank is always full. Thanks so much. I just want to share this. Okay. I've had insomnia for 4 months. I practiced CBT-I for 4 weeks, restriction time midnight to 6. Before I experienced a lot of anxiety, panic attacks during states of wakefulness, etc. But after your books and watching all Insomnia Insights, things changed dramatically. I tried to be natto. I stood calm and relaxed time even during states of wakefulness. I don't think about myself like an insomniac anymore. But my quality of sleep still is not perfect. At least 76% sleep subjectively. I don't track. I can sleep 4 hours for 3 days in a row, then 6 hours and 4 again. And despite this, I feel positive almost every time. So the question is, am I on the right path? Have I any mistakes in my behavior? Should I do something to make my sleep better, or just relax and wait until my brain finally understands that I don't try to control it? Thank you, fans. Elena, I have very little to add here. I think when I read a message like yours, it's very, very, very clear to me the latter is the way. Of course, when it's a very common situation in that you've been really confused, you struggle, you believe what's going on at all. And then you start learning, maybe you found this channel, or you read one of my books, another great book, or something like that, and you start understanding, and then a lot of the goes away. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, there's nothing unique or unusual. Like I understand. Then you start sleeping better. You're less worried, etc. But the thing is that we can think of insomnia as like this, like it's a traumatic event. We have been really scared. And whenever that's happened, like, fear just doesn't go away in a predictable kind of linear way. When the brain has been scared, it takes a while before it stops being apprehensive, and it's kind of like, oh, this thing dangerous. Okay, well, that's nice, and then you sleep a little better. Everything is still. But wait a minute, did I miss something? Am I doing anything wrong? Should I be looking out? Should I? It wants to protect you, but it takes a while before it sees, oh, there's actually nothing I need to protect this person from, and we sleep really well. So I think I don't think I have to add much more than to that. It's totally normal to have this kind of a little bit choppy path back to sleeping well. And how do you? I was just curious about, like, how do you estimate your efficiency to be 76%? Like, I don't know how we could do that. And the only other thing I kind of would like to add is that whenever we estimate anything in numbers, I think are very, very, very tricky. When we measure anything in numbers, I think that is very tricky. When we measure how much we slept in hours, or we measure sleep efficiency, or we keep count how many days we slept this much, or anything that involves number, I think is often best to just sort of abandon. And then, you know, the comes of like, what if my brain, like, it tells me that I slept this much, or tells me my sleep efficiency was this much. Like, should I try to ignore that, or like stop it from doing that? No, I think it's better to just acknowledge it, but then kind of like be like, but you're not sure. Like, your brain can say like, your sleep is only, you know, 2%, and then you can be like, how do you know that? You actually don't know that at all. Nobody knows. And you know, and then you sort of teach the brain that you have no interest whatsoever in knowing how much you slept or what your sleep efficiency is, then the brain eventually goes like, oh, I guess this isn't really that helpful, and then things get easier. So I think that can be a really good way. So Elena, super glad to hear this. I think it's clear to me that you're on the path towards freedom, towards peace, struggle, etc. But yeah, let us know how things go, and then be in touch. All right, let's the next one. That was a nice one to read. Freya says, I have a disease called osteogenesis imperfecta. I never had trouble sleeping before. Nowadays, I just started suffering from insomnia for some reason. Well, the day I had gone to the salon, I was already sleep deprived. But I had forced myself to stay awake that day, literally 30 hours plus. The hairstylist was cut and brushed my hair in a very rough manner, and it hurt. A few hours prior, I went to another salon for radiation. It was also painful. My body went through painful experiences while I was sleep deprived. Once the night finally came, I started having a headache, and it's when I started to struggle to fall asleep. I only had 4 hours of sleep the night, cut sleep at that, and 2 hours. I woke up again after going through this. Nothing has been the same as before for the past two weeks. Symptoms started to show up on my body, from tinnitus, inner body vibrations. The headache is still there. When I try to fall asleep, I experience the hypnic jerks and brain zaps. I went to the doctor, and she says it's anxiety. When I don't feel anxious at all, meds don't to work either anymore. But I did something I wish I had for SFI, but then I should tell myself I'm not a unicorn and that I don't have it. But the thought of it lingers there. I'm just at a little loss at this point. I'm only a teen. I managed to get some poor quality now. Is there something wrong with me? Well, you know, I want to say first of all, for sharing this and asking these questions, and to anyone who asks like, is there anything wrong with me? Like, of course, I'll say check with it, or make sure you know if you're concerned about your health, you talk to your doctor. You've already done, and from that, I would say there's really nothing wrong with us. Experience things like anxiety, like a sense of panic, fear, insomnia, we're awake for long periods of time. The thing is it's out of context. It makes it a little scary. So if you had been in a what should we say here, some type of war zone, like literally you're scrambling to safe and to keep moving on from this turmoil and everything that's going on, and you don't sleep for 30 hours, you'd not think that it's strange that you're having a fast heartbeat, that you have zaps, that you have palpitations, that you're all these things. You would not think strange at all. It's like kind of completely normal in the context of like a fear that or something dangerous that you can see that you see happening around you, right? So therefore, many people who have been some type of stress, whatever it is, like the extreme case I brought up, or just like an intense basketball game, which is also a lot of fear and stress in basketball. Like either way, you a lot of people who've been in that situation not even remember having zaps or tensions or headache or fast breathing or shallow breathing or anything like that, because in context it's like so obvious why the body would be doing these things. But when it comes to insomnia, the threat is like it's sneakier. It's like we started to become afraid of being awake, and this is not tangible. It's not something we can see around us. So when we have the manifestations of fear, being awake for a longer time, touches and jolts and things like that seems strange to us. Why is this happening? Like, because it's out of context. The brain doesn't understand like that it's just fear. And so it seems scary, and then we become more scared because we think something's with us, and then we have more of these experiences, and then we think even something's wrong with it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So one key thing to see that all these experiences are completely normal. Scared, and it's just that with insomnia, it's out. The fear is out of context. We have a hard time seeing why we're scared. We don't understand why we're scared, and then it seems kind of strange and scary. So that was number one thing I thought about. I was reading this SFI, FFI, take on that is that if you have fatal familial insomnia, somebody in your family would have that because it's autosomal dominant. Like one of your parents have that for you to have it. The sporadic form is, my take on that. It's not an insomnia at all. It is very obvious that someone has some neurological problem with them when they have it, but the person who has it may not be obvious, but to other people around them, it's very, very obvious. It's kind of the opposite of what people mostly report on this channel, which is, I think there's something wrong with me. Everybody else says I'm anxious, versus sporadic fatal insomnia, which is like, it's very obvious that something is wrong with you, but the person who has it is often so sick already that they don't know what's going on. They sort of become like a younger and younger in a way, like they become like a child who doesn't know what's happening, and then like an infant and sleep a little. So if someone can go on YouTube and write a YouTube comment or something like that, to me that means they don't have that's just a take on that. And then finally, I just want to comment on like the brain tries, of course, to make sense of things. It's like a problem-solving machine. So when we don't sleep, it can be like, okay, what happened the day before, or can have caused this? It's a way to problem solve, because if the brain thinks if I can find the reason this happened, I can do that in the future, something like that. So it can be like, oh wait, I did go cut my hair that day, and that kind of hurt. Maybe that's why I don't sleep. It's really isn't an explanation at all, but the brain has to find something, and it comes up with all kinds of ideas. So I think these were the most important points that came to mind as I was reading this. But Freya, I hope this helped. Stay in touch, and let us know how it's go. Okay, we shall proceed to a message. Hi, Daniel. So I struggled with sleep for just under 3 years, and after years of watching yours and Martin Reed's videos on YouTube, I went on Martin's 8-week course. I found a lot of content I learned valuable, interesting, and it made a lot of sense, even if I already did know most from signing up to his free 2-week email course and watching both of your videos. I think I was average 3 to 3.5 hours a night before the course. However, with Martin, it went up to 4.5 hours. With 2 weeks out of the 8, I was getting 5 to 5.5 hours most nights, which was great for me, even though the 2 weeks of better sleep were spart. I slept well the last week of the course, and was mostly getting 5 to 5.5 hours of sleep. And I thought I'd finally nailed it. And actually, let's highlight that. And on my way to achieving better sleep, especially after learning sleep reconditioning, working on sleep-related anxiety, and how to think better, and change how I think about sleep. I also watched some of your videos while on the course, which I found very helpful too. Since finishing the course, however, the last few months have been very poor, having barely slept at all. I've not reacted too much to them, gone about my day like nothing happened for the most part, and not been anxious. However, I've still not slept well. We can highlight this too. Let's highlight this too. I've been exercising. However, I admit I stopped using the sleep diary, the relaxation exercises, and the thought sheet exercises, etc., as I thought I'd tried without them. Maybe I made an error here and should get back to doing them again. I think my mistake was stopping them when I was feeling better, when I should have carried on, even though my sleep was improving that week. I'm trying not to let this get the better of me or to me, as ultimately I know that bad sleep doesn't always guarantee a bad day. Just like good sleep doesn't guarantee a good day. Having read your book, Why We Don't Sleep, but there isn't really any conclusive studies or evidence proving that insomniacs are healthy or will become or have a shortened lifespan, etc. I know I have to put zero effort in sleep. And this was another one. Let's highlight this one too. Or the less effort in regards to sleep, and to not be afraid of wakefulness. After all, you can be anxious sleep, right? Usually I have no issues falling asleep, where I experience more waking up during the night and not falling back to sleep, However, the last couple of nights I've struggled to fall asleep. My arousal system not being that activated, along with my sleep drive being huge, as I've been previous nights, and make no effort to sleep, and certainly don't. This is also very very important, I think. A struggle for my arousal system not being activated, along with my sleep drive being huge. Okay. I love how your videos are different from Martin's, so it's good to get a different insight and deep, although still on the same road, trying to help others recover. What did this course of action you take? I'm pretty confused. My sleep has been bad the past few nights. However, the last final week of the course with this coach, I was sleeping better again. Could this like a post-course blues or me or something? I feel a bit failure for not seeing such improvements in my sleep. That's another here that I think is important. I feel like failure. For instance, it's a marathon, not a sprint, but I'm a bit unsure what to. Maybe this is just a blip. Sorry for the long question, Stewart. Okay. So, Stewart, thanks so much for submitting this. And see my highlight. We could spend the whole episode just learning from this message. But I think I want to start here with like some real big picture things, and it's what I think about sleep in general is this: that it just cannot be controlled. It just cannot be controlled. In fact, it is the desire to have control that is insomnia, right? If you think about someone who you know that sleeps well, and you ask them like, how do you do that? They will go like, I don't know, which is the secret, right? That is the secret of sleeping well, is no effort or a little effort, like you said. And now when we start, when we start trying to control sleep, things can get really confusing. So let's say you work with Martin, who's my good friend, and I'm so happy to have him around. Like, he's creating so much great content, which is a little different from mine, which is great. And I often text him when I have questions or things like that. Lecture. So Martin's my good friend. But it's still the same. Like, this can have my clients and Martin's clients, is that can be confusion, which is following. So let's say Martin says, okay, I think you should be up until maybe midnight, or I know he wouldn't say that. He wouldn't say you should. He would say you could. It may be helpful for you to stay up until midnight and get up around six, right? And you do that, and you start sleeping better. Like you some weeks you're sleeping better there. And then to me, when you start, that always comes from the same place. It comes from this of trying less to sleep, of having less control, of delegating the work of sleep. So in the context of working with someone like Martin, to me it can be for example, it can be that the faith in course allows you to like try less. Okay, I don't have to try so much. I'm in good hands. I don't do so much. Then it's better. But the confusion can be that you think, oh, it was my sleep drive. It was this behavioral techniques and this sheet that I was filling out and these diaries. That's what helped. And the reason I think that is very important to know that sleeping well, always letting go, not from doing something, is exactly the scenario that end up in if you think you did something, because then let's say you graduate from core and you start having some trouble sleeping the same week or 4 weeks later or 2 months later. If the idea is, oh, I did something so I could sleep before, now I have to do that thing again, but then when you do something, you're exerting more effort, and then nothing happens. It's like, oh, gosh, not even the things I did before are working now. Something must be really wrong, right? Where in fact that's true at all. It's just seeing that it was letting go that helped me this time, and letting go is always the answer. That to me is so. And another thing that struck me with this message is that it was clear to me that we saw how the goal was to obtain more sleep, right? It was kind of like I slept 2 hours, which was not good, but then I reached 4 hours, and that was better. And then I had 1.5 hours, and that was really good. And it's of course very natural for that to happen when we have very little. Very natural for us to have a goal of sleeping more, but of course that leads to performance anxiety. The more we measure our success, how much we sleep, the more pressured we're going to be to sleep. The more pressured we are to sleep, the less sleep. And when you have a goal in a certain amount, it always leads in trouble, because if you sleep little, you're frustrated. You feel like a failure, like you couldn't achieve this thing, which is kind of, in a way, it's kind of a goal, because no human can obtain sleep willfully and then like pardon ourselves for not being something that's impossible. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of like I would be myself for not being able to change my color to purple. Like, why couldn't I make my hair purple again? That's wrong. Like, and confusion is that other people can do it, but other people can do it. I can't, but nobody can make this sleep. I do it. You can do it, but nobody can do it. So, sleeping little leads to frustration, self-criticism. So if we have like a goal of sleeping a lot, then if you sleep a little, again, like feel like we failed if we have that goal. And on the other hand, if we have nights where you sleep more, like, oh, I slept 7 hours, that was amazing. It can feel great for about a second, and then it's like, but how do I do it again? How do I repeat that? So you see that both lead to more performance anxiety. Like if you sleep little, you feel like you fail, and you have to. If you sleep more, you feel like you won this time, but you have to figure out how to repeat that. So when sleeping a certain amount goal, to me, always leads to struggle. So I think there's some really helpful that are sort of like non-goals, which are things like I can be kind to myself even if I haven't slept much, or I don't have to criticize myself even if I have a lot of anxiety. I think those are really helpful. They're so gentle but still meaningful and practical. Or things like I can use the word meaning. That made me think of Trevor Youngston and like ACT. And I think another one, like, I can have a meaningful day regardless of how I slept. That's something else that can be something, not necessarily a goal, that can sort of guide you. I think that's helpful versus again, tracking is also very, very tricky. So with that said, that was kind of the big picture thing. Let's jump in here and look at these things I highlighted. Okay, so this one, I thought I finally nailed it. Yeah, this is a classic. This is I heard so many variations of one. Like, I thought I'd figured it out. I thought I finally cracked it. Whenever you find yourself thinking that, you sort of know that you're gonna have some trouble, because whenever we have an idea that we control sleep, we're gonna will lead to like monitoring, like, do I still have it under control? I didn't have it under control at the time, I have to control it more. Like, whenever we have that, like, I nailed it, I cracked, I figured it out, I got it, I succeeded, I conquered, I won, I had a victory. Whenever we think those, we're gonna have some more trouble. But when we on the other hand towards like, I see there's really nothing I can do I cannot control it. I can abandon the struggle, that leads to peace, So I think this is important. When we find this one, I think I nailed it. I think I figured it out. Then we know that we are probably heading for a bit of trouble there. So I think this one is important. Okay, next one I highlight was I've not acted too much to these poor nights of sleep. I've gone about my day like nothing happened for the most part, and not anxious. However, I've still not slept well. When we see the word still, when we find the still, it teaches a lot, because the word still basically means despite doing this still happens. It's a cause and effect thing. We have had this idea that we can control it again. We've had this idea that if I do this, then this should happen. Whenever we have that in the realm of like sleep and our emotions, again, it leads to some trouble. It is like you kind of like going about my day like nothing's happened, that should make me sleep more, which never will help, because no matter what you do in order to sleep more, it will lead to like pressure and self-monitoring and checking how it worked, etc., etc. So I think whenever we use the word still, it can teach us so much. So that's an important one. Now, doing things like during the day, even if you're little, I think that generally speaking is helpful when it doesn't have any intent. But when the intent with whatever we do is to sort of produce more sleep or something like that. There's now the next one was this. I know I have to put zero F sleep, and I just highlight it because it reminds me of something like from a sleep biography, like I have to be more relaxed. And then he said in the book that he just immediately realized that wait a minute, I'm just pressuring myself to be more relaxed, which is the opposite of relaxed, right? And it's kind of here. I know I have to put zero effort into sleep. You can also sense in this sentence that there's a lot of pressure in this sentence. And of course, when we feel I have to get to zero effort, then there's pressure. I think it needs to be aware of that, or at least less effort. Yes, less effort is helpful, but again, we cannot pressure. We cannot make ourselves relaxed. We cannot make ourselves have less. So therefore, awareness of kindness, I think, is really helpful. When we find ourselves putting in effort, we can just be aware of that without engagement, and that automatically leads to less struggle. And I think there's a final one here. Maybe I've struggled to fall asleep despite my arousal system that activated along with my sleep drive being huge. And this is kind of similar here, that there's an expectation that if these conditions are met, then sleep should happen. Should be sleeping now because of this and that. And people here on the channel, the gas and brake model say that, yeah, it's true. If you're sleepy and there's no hyperarousal or hyperarousal there, like walk and sleep will happen. And even if you're anxious, even if there is some hyperarousal, sleep can still happen. It will still happen eventually, right? But it's different with expectation of sleep, because then the hyperarousal focused on sort of sleep and the process of sleep and the self-monitoring, that leads to makes it really tricky. It's very, very common. It's like I'm not anxious, but I'm still not sleeping. Well, in this, it may be just curiosity. It may be just that you're wondering why you're not sleeping, that keeps you from sleeping. And very similar in this message from Stewart, like, I'm not particularly anxious, I'm really sleepy. And the other you can learn from this is that sleep drive is something that is required for sleep, but it's like my teaching is all about like sleep drive is not like that's where it's at. Like, we don't have insomnia because we're not sleepy enough. That's not where it's at. It's rather that expectation that we sleep, or the idea that we should sleep, or like trying to control sleep, etc., that we see here. That's where it's at. And then finally, the final thing here was that Stewart said, like, I feel like a fit, and that like it. There's like, again, that's kind of like say yourself, like, I feel because I couldn't turn my head green. Like nobody can do that. That is not possible. And so it's just an invitation to kindness. It's an invitation to self-kindness. And I think Stewart asked if this kind of little blip, and if he should have, like he said, I think, Stewart, you were also like kind of being a little bit self, or like stopping to do the. To me, it's all about letting go. When you used to diary a little while and you learned from it, and maybe you did something else you learned from. I think that's all. Like, I really don't think anyone needs to do something to sleep more, or do some preserve sleep. It's all about the opposite. And finally here, there's often sort of when you worked with someone like Martin, myself, anyone else, and you graduate, then of course you can feel a little bit scared, because you no longer have that support. Maybe you're just wondering what's going to happen. The brain is kind of in this monitoring mode. So it's totally normal to have these blips, these bumps, and in fact, always when we have a speed bump, it's normal. It just means that there's some fear. That's all. So hope that helps, Stewart. Thanks so much for being here, for support. Hang in there and let us know how things go. All right, so let's move to the last one here from, I think it's Derek. Yeah, Derek says, "Hi Daniel, I regularly watch your videos, but I'm most intrigued by speed bumps. That's where I am in my journey. Since I got your book last March, I felt I understood all insomnia and knew I would get many speed bumps, but we're going into August, and I thought I would be rid of the fear by now. I sleep fine mostly, but as soon as I have one bad night, such as a night before I go back to work, it reactivates the fear. Is fear permanent? I don't react, but often I'll have a second bad night. So it would be appreciated. Anytime, Derek. And this is not uncommon at all. Something very, a question very often. And actually, as I'm speaking here, I'm thinking I should probably some more videos on speed bumps and add them to the newest playlist, which is on speed bumps. And so the question here really becomes like should it still be happening? Should the fear have gone away now? Why is it happening? It's something like that. It's kind of a summary of this. And I think we can see that, Derek, thanks to you being willing to find some courage within, things have changed for the better. Mostly you sleep well. That's amazing. That's fantastic. And again, one, it's not an easy path. Now, when we talked about this early in the episode, that the insomnia experience is something of a trauma. You think of somebody who once was like randomly attacked by a dog, like a big attack them. And we wouldn't be surprised if that person still, after several months, is a little bit uncomfortable around dogs. I think that's strange. And similarly, when you've had this traumatic experience with insomnia, like you've been up and awake for long periods of time at night, you that fear of being awake and the struggle and everything that comes with it, it doesn't go away in any type of linear or predictable way. So it's very natural that you've even generally sleep well when there's type of stress at work, or you got travel, or something is different, then that triggers kind of these old thought patterns that are kind of overall fading, but like they're kind of reactivate, and you start thinking, what if I can't sleep tonight? It's really important to sleep because I have this thing tomorrow, etc. And then because of that pressure to sleep, you have a night where you don't sleep much, and then of course it can sort of like keep those thoughts. What if it happens the second night, and then you have a second night, etc. But what's nice to hear is that it seems like these speed bumps kind of still happening, but it's like they've led in back to a real kind of ongoing struggle with insomnia. So what is helpful to know here? I think actually the most helpful to know is that this is completely normal and expected. There's nothing strange or unusual about it. And then the question often becomes like, so what you do? Well, I really think the most helpful, like almost always, is nothing. Just kind of just like in the micro. Any given night, the more we're okay with what happens any given night, the less we'll struggle that night. The same applies in the macro. The more we are okay with having speed bumps, and we say, yeah, things have gotten better. I still have these speed bumps, and it's been like 6 months. But hey, like there's really nothing strange about that. Then we're willing to have these speed bumps. We're not going to change anything. We're not, it will resolve. It's just the brain just needed a little more time to learn. There's really nothing to be afraid of, and there may have a little bit of resistance left. It could have been a scenario where all things are good, but I'm still not wanting to have these speed bumps, and of course then they happen, right? So it's, as it sounds, it's always when we're willing to experience something that is uncomfortable, like we don't want to, and then that thing stops being a problem and the whole thing just fades out. So I think that is that's kind of like summary of what I thought as I was reading this. I guess as a final note was like when you're not going to the rabbit hole, you're more moving away from it. It may not seem like it may seem like, since this still happens, something must be wrong, which is totally isn't. In fact, when you have the knowledge and the insight to not go to a place where you're like googling and searching and trying and experimenting, then things are getting better. They will get better. So I'll end there, Derek. I hope this helped, and thank everyone for submitting questions. And if anyone who hears this thinks, I love teaching, it makes sense to me, and I would like a little bit more help, like connecting the getting some support on my path to sleeping well forever. Feel free to check out thesleeptool.com. You can find so great options. So yeah, with that said, I'll head out for now. I hope you have a really nice weekend. I'll be back next week, and until then, stay out of trouble.